guest needs no introduction. My guest is one of the greatest people I've ever met in my entire life. He's a dear friend. He is a rising media personality in various ways. He's definitely a rising star in the world of production. He is one of the, I think he's literally the very first person I met in college.
Hey.
He is someone we're still friends to this day, and we will stay friends for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, Ryan Bagdikian is a special friend of mine, and he's family, honestly. And I'm so thrilled to have him on the show today. This was an episode when I made this podcast. I needed to have this specific guest.
Yes,
and
sir.
He's here, and we are very, very blessed. Joining us in the studio audience and will contribute to the show is Bourdain Brown, a.k.a. Bourdain St. Brown. What's up?
Yo, hop on the cam. You'll say what up.
That's good, yo.
Skid pop.
But most of all, and why we're here today, everybody, please give a warm welcome to Ryan Bagdikian.
Hey.
Brian, welcome to the Productive Conversations podcast. How are we doing, my friend?
What's poppin', man? I'm excited to be here. I've been listening, you know. Shout out to all my homies that have been on the Productive Conversations pod. We're about to have another productive conversation today. You heard.
My man bringing the Bobby Busay Bourbon Bowl edition.
You already know. We got the drip. We got that Water Boy drip. You heard me. We got that H2O drip. You already know. Shout out to Adam Sandler. Shout out to Kathy Bates.
Man. Dude, how about that? Yo, before we start anything, let's get a warm toast. We got some dinner before.
Yes, sir.
Got these drinks after the fact.
A little barefoot hard seltzer for those little, those girls out there watching their weight. I'm one of those girls watching their weight. Cheers, ladies. Cheers, boys.
And I'm just a guy getting my JD ready. What do you have, Brendan?
Some loyal lemonade.
Loyal lemonade for Brendan.
Loyal lemonades.
I'm just, we're trying to watch the pound. Oh, man. You're going
bro.
for it over there. Okay.
Nothing but, dude. Nothing but. But Ryan, glad to have you. Then 2020 off right. Brendan, glad to have you too.
Cheers.
God bless.
Social distance. Cheers. That was a big swig, man, bro.
Tastes good.
Gonna be a drunk conversation too, I guess.
Oh man, when we have some clout, we can see where that goes. But Ryan.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on. How are we doing today?
Man, I've been good, man. I was good the last time you asked me to, bro. I was straight. I've been chilling, man.
So nice you say it twice.
That's right.
Well, first, Ryan, how do you get a Bobby Busay jersey?
They were making them Adidas was making them a couple years ago. They were doing a few different famous sports movie jerseys. They had the Paul Crewe football jersey from Longest Yard. They had some other ones as well.
We have Rick Vaughn from Major League.
Right. The Cleveland Indians jersey or the Cleveland baseball team jersey.
Yes. Jesus Shuttlesworth.
Yep.
Ray Allen from
He Got
Game.
Yep. Bobby Busay from Waterboy. They had sent a promotional package over to ESPN to Scott Van Pelt, and he didn't want it, so he offered it to me, and that's how I got it. So shout out to my boy SVP, that's my guy.
All right. But before we get into that, who are some of your other favorite sports movies, characters, or movies itself?
Are we going? You want to go characters or movies first? What do you want?
We'll start with characters.
Characters, Paul Crewe. I mean, I love the Longest Yard, both of them. The new one holds a little dear to my heart because watched it as a kid. Adam Sandler's so good. Chris Rock's so good. Just really good movie. Fun movie.
Me and my brothers watched it last night, actually.
I watched it it's on FX every day. I watched it 3 days ago, I think. It's so good.
Can't go wrong with it.
No, you can't. I also really like Jesus Shuttlesworth because I love Ray Allen. UConn.
He's a really good actor in
Boston Celtics, great movie.
Really good performance.
I believe Stephon Marbury was supposed to be in that movie. I think Spike Lee's first choice was Stephon Marbury.
Actually, I think it was Kobe.
Was it Kobe?
And I think it was based on Stephon Marbury.
Right.
Stephon Marbury.
That's what it is.
The movie's set in Coney Island, Brooklyn, and that's where he's from. And then, so it's based on him, but I think Kobe was actually the original choice.
And then they got Ray Allen. And then, Ray Allen pretty good. Trying to think of who else,
for sports movie characters?
Yeah, I mean,
the character we have,
Gordon Bombay. Denzel and Remember the Titans.
Herman Booth.
Yeah, Coach Carter, Samuel Jackson and Coach Carter.
What about Emilio Estevez as the Mighty Ducks?
Don't care about Mighty Ducks. Should I say it? Should I? I'm sorry, everybody, but I've never seen the Mighty Ducks.
You have never seen the Mighty Ducks?
No.
That's a surprise.
Emilio Estevez, that's Charlie Sheen's brother, right?
Yeah,
and that's Martin Sheen's son.
Other son.
Wow.
One of his other sons.
What a family.
right?
A lot of cocaine in that family. A lot of good acting as well, but definitely Tiger Blood.
Honestly, Charlie Sheen's got acting chops still in there, but
no doubt. And I mess with Charlie Sheen heavy. I mess with Martin Sheen heavy. And you know what? Yeah. Emilio Estevez been in his bag too. But
for real.
A lot of cocaine.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, they say. But we have other characters. So we have who's Bad News Bears.
Oh, I've never seen that.
What?
No.
I got a Tinder notification.
A Tinder notification?
Oh, it says you could keep Mac. Come on.
Nah, man. I don't want to hear
you're right.
that.
There's no one I'm talking to right now. I can't say. I don't even know why I'm wasting my time.
You ain't got no clout, man. Nah,
I have my own clout. It's all about that self-love. But but what about some other sports movies?
Sports movie. Okay, so I already said I like Longest Yard.
I like Major League.
Major League is very funny. You know what's an underrated one that I feel like kind of goes under the radar a little bit? Basketball.
Yeah.
That's a fun time.
Parker and Matt Stone.
Yeah. That's a fun time. You know what movie's really bad, but I just love it so much is you've probably seen it. You've seen like every movie. Mr. 3000 with Bernie Mac. That movie's so bad, but it's awesome.
Yeah. A lot of people think I'm pretentious towards bad movies. I'm really not. I enjoy all types of movies, and you gotta enjoy that stuff.
And Bernie Mac is funny, obviously.
Man.
Rest in peace. Bernie Mac's obviously hilarious, right? But like he is the only reason you should watch that movie. It's not a good movie, but Bernie Mac is just so funny, just in general, that he does his thing. So it's watchable. The plot makes no sense. It just there's so many loopholes.
They decreased some statistics for all of Major League.
Right.
And they somehow made less. He somehow had lost his 3,000 hits. He wasn't in the Hall of Fame yet, despite that he'd obviously be in the Hall of Fame.
And what player's retiring as soon as they get 3,000 hits just because they got 3,000 hits?
Fun fact, you know who got 3,001 hits? Is Roberto Clemente. So he would technically qualify for that.
Another legend, rest in peace.
Absolutely. A huge impact, great philanthropist too.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But other sports, how about The Sandlot?
Sandlot's a classic, man. That's a great movie. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. You killing me, Smalls.
You ever see the movie Slapshot with Paul Newman?
No, but you know what hockey movie I have seen?
What?
Goon. That's a good movie with
I've heard of
Shawn
that.
Michael Scott, I think.
Or is it Goon? Or I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's this other hockey movie that's really under the radar with like a very young Keanu Reeves, I think he was actually destined for the NHL at one point, and
oh really?
He got hurt and everything. And I mean, we go on and on. Waterboy, obviously.
Yeah. Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore, yes.
Happy Gilmore is a classic.
The Rocky movies, bro. The Rocky movies.
You know what's crazy? I've never seen a Rocky movie.
You've never seen a Rocky movie?
I know, man. I there's a few cinematic masterpieces I just haven't made my way over to yet.
I definitely, as we go on the podcast and go focus on movies, we have to discuss that.
Oh, of course.
Damn, like, no Rocky movies?
I know, man. There's a... I look at some of the movies you got on your wall here. I've never seen, or I haven't finished Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I watched it on a plane and I just couldn't do it. I think it's part of the reason is because I was on a plane. Departed's great. Pulp Fiction's great. One of my favorites. I've never seen Entourage, the show, or the movie.
You don't need to see the movie.
That's what I hear. I've never seen Casablanca, and I've never finished Fight Club.
Wow,
so I know, man.
That is some unique.
I am a cinematic heathen, but I'll make up for it. I'm sure.
I hear you. But you didn't even see Creed either out of the Rocky.
No, but you know what's funny? It's kind of like a little behind the scenes thing. Creed 2.
Yeah.
Linda Cohn and Scott Van Pelt are SportsCenter anchors, and they filmed like a little news hit for the movie. Like
you were there on set for that?
Yeah, I was. I actually helped teleprompt her doing her read for it, and it was pretty cool.
How about that? So, and also just 42. Just want to make that shout out.
Never seen 42. I know, and you know what's crazy? I love Chadwick Boseman. Mm-hmm. Rest in peace. Phenomenal actor. He's isn't he his last appearance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom or something like that with Viola Davis?
It came out yesterday at the time of this recording.
What's it on? It's on Netflix?
Netflix.
Oh, dude, I gotta watch that tonight. At the time of this recording, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom came out yesterday.
Yep.
You guys should check it out. I'm sure it's gonna be super dope. And by the time this comes out, I'm gonna check it out too. Shout out to Viola Davis though, one of my favorite actors. She's phenomenal. She's probably the best. I would say she's a top 5 actor in Hollywood right now.
Viola Davis. I can say that.
I mean,
see that.
when does Viola Davis miss? Have you ever seen a bad performance from Viola Davis?
Not that I can think of.
No, you have. Well, you can't. You'd be lying if you said she did.
Oh man, I definitely want to go in with the actors and all the actors in this world. But Ryan, so as we were sticking, you mentioned a couple times your ESPN connection.
Sure.
What exactly is that connection? So you, Ryan, have worked for ESPN.
Yep.
And I'm sure it was a wonderful experience.
Yep.
I'm sure you've gained so much out of it, and it's really been an awesome start to your early career in production. So tell me, Ryan, what were some of the best things you got out of working at ESPN?
I would say, connections, right? That's the number one thing anywhere you go, every day, right? Like, we're sitting next to somebody right now, Bryant, who I think understands and values that just as much as I do. That's half the things we talk about. It's like, hey, like you gotta, you're holding it down for your people, but you also gotta get those people, right? You gotta know those people. I think that was a huge thing for me there is, when you meet a lot of those people, it's kind of sets you up for future gigs. It sets you up for future success, and, you can help them out too. It's kind of, it's definitely a mutual thing. So that was a huge thing for me, was definitely getting, my foot in the door in the industry and starting to meet people at other companies and other organizations and really get my feet wet. Obviously experience. I think that's another big one as well. It's probably just as big as, meeting people as well. I've worked on national championships. I've worked on 3 NBA finals. I've worked with pretty much any athlete you could name. I've worked with countless celebrities and crews, and I've booked talent, and I've done it all. And I'm 24, and I'm grateful for that. But it's hard too, right? When you go and you do this work and you're 22, 23 years old, not a lot is expected from you. But at the same time, a lot is, right? Because they don't care how old you are. You got to get that shit done, right? When I stepped onto the field for the college football playoff this year, the national championship in New Orleans between LSU and Clemson, I had to produce the show from the field. The main producer, who's been working for 22 years, had the same job as me that day, and made a hell of a lot more money than I did too. And he was in the truck. He was in the production truck right outside the stadium. I was the only producer on the field.
You really had that. What do you think?
24, newly 24. So I was basically I was 23 2 weeks before this.
What?
And I was the main producer on the field for a show that had 7.5 million viewers. And while at the end of the day I made half of what the other guy made, I had to do the same exact amount of work and the same level of work. And that's incredible experience, but a fucking difficult one too.
Why do you think they trusted you as such a young 24-year-old to get in there?
You show, you definitely, you take your hits, right? You take your L's and you take your W's and you take them well. I think that's the big thing, right? When you take your L's, when you fuck up, own it. Don't fucking blame on somebody else. You lost, man. Like, you fucked up. Fucking own it, and then don't lose again. Win next time. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give you is, you go and catch some L's. Everybody's caught L's in this world, but you got to own it. That's the difference between winners and losers.
So you'd be agreed with being confident in your mistakes in a sense.
Because nobody's perfect, right?
Yeah.
You hear these people that are so good at things, right? Influencers, whatever. A guy I like a lot, who actually met at that national championship, Gary Vee. He's a winner, but he'll admit that he lost, right?
Of course.
There are people out there that don't like to admit they lost. Oh, I'm a sore loser because I'm competitive. You can be competitive and admit you lost and take the loss because you need to learn from that loss, right? And that's going to happen in your life. You are not perfect. Nobody is. The difference between winners and losers is what you do after you lose.
I cannot adhere to that more,
Yeah.
and I really believe that with my early career in production as well.
Yeah.
Because of all the various things and how, if you're trying to get into the production industry, you don't necessarily need specific training, like say a medical, anyone in the medical field or law.
It's mentality.
It's about your drive and your will to do it. And because you're so replaceable, you have to, if you get that shot, you have to prove yourself to stay in it.
Right.
And in any little case, you have to make it because anybody can take it. And it's easy to fool out. People look to nitpick you.
Sure.
And that's why it's a game of trying to get respect and trying to earn your place.
And you hit the nail on the head there, right? You talk about You go into work every day, right? You work let's just say you work at any level within media specifically. This goes for pretty much any industry, but we're talking about media because we're both in media and we're talking on a medium. So you go into work every day. It doesn't matter where you work. It doesn't matter if you're at ESPN or if you're at Channel 3 News in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. It doesn't matter what level you're at because guess what? There are 200 people out there that want your job. There's 300 people. There's 500 people. There's 3,000, right? So when you go in every day and you don't bring it, that's fine. That's fine. But just understand this. You are so replaceable. It doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter if you're king shit or not. If you think you're brilliant or not. It doesn't matter if you went to Harvard. It doesn't matter if you went to Hartford. It doesn't matter where you went to school. Because guess what? At the end of the day, we are all replaceable.
Yeah.
So you need to bust your ass every day. You need to be creative every day. And guess what? There's going to be a lot of days where you don't want to be. I've woken up in countless hotel rooms fucking exhausted because I went to bed at 3 and I had to get up at 7 to go produce a show, but I was editing until 3, right? Guess what? I don't have time to sit there and feel bad for myself.
Show must go on.
Somebody paid for me to sleep in that hotel room. Somebody paid for me to fly to that city. Somebody paid for me to get to that stadium that day. And while you could take it for granted because you've done it 25 times, 30 times, 40 times, it doesn't matter. Because when you show up, you fuck up one time, that's all it takes. It's fucking gone, right? If you show up, you don't put in effort, then why do they care? It doesn't matter if you've done it 100 times. It matters what happens on the time 101. Because, and that's the way it works, right? You could go and you could make a company $200 million in a year, right? You could make a show every single day that was fantastic and made the company a ton of money. But all you've got to do is fuck up one time and lose the company $100 million. It doesn't matter if you made them 200. Because guess what? To them, you didn't make them $100 million like net positive there, right? If you make $200 million and then you lose $100 million, that's a net positive 100. But to the company, you lost $100 million. They don't give a fuck about the $200 million you made them. So you got to bring it every day. Because if you slip up and you slip up enough, you're gone. It doesn't matter.
And you could also say, saying all this and very much is true, but don't also add so much pressure to yourself for that. You can do amongst all of that.
Some people require that pressure.
Of course, that's the only way to have that work ethic. But there's also that way of staying cool, calm, and collective in a highly fast-paced environment.
Well, there's moments, right, in which you apply that pressure. That's how I do it, right? I wake up in the morning and the pressure's on. The night before I go to bed, the pressure's on. But when I walk into the studio, there's no pressure. Because there's times for pressure and there's times for no pressure, right? And ironically, it's the opposite of what a lot of people do. When people go to bed the night before they have a big show, no pressure. Because they're not thinking about it actively. But the issue is, when they show up, they haven't thought about how shit's going to go down. They haven't stressed over things. And then they do it in the moment. And then when things start to fall apart, everything goes. Because you didn't actively think about this beforehand, and you're in the moment, and you're shitting your pants. And then guess what? You're gone, right? So if you're sitting there in your bedroom at home the night before, and you think about, okay, this is what's going to happen in the A's for this rundown, this is what's going to happen in the B's, when this guest comes on or when this guest is late, this is how it's going to go down. You show up, what's there to think about? Nothing. So when shit starts to hit the fan, you've already thought about how shit's going to go down. You already thought about how you're going to fix it. And you're not going to stress because you're not all over the place. You'd be all over the place if you haven't really stressed over it beforehand. So,
of course,
it's all about mentality, pressure at the right times.
For sure. That's the point I'm trying to say. I'm not saying be lazy-dazy.
Sure.
Don't think about that. I'm saying, obviously, be on your toes, but also don't think it's the end of the world as well, because you could totally psych yourself out if you think, everything is coming on in that sense. That you're very much right, and I 110% agree. And you have to have in the side of your head what's going on in the next step and expect the unexpected. But also do that. Stay calm, stay cool, stay collective. And you know that you're hired for a reason. You're given the opportunity for a reason. You've been considered for the reason. So just know that you have it in you to have that great job. You'll be fine.
And I think that's important too, right? That's something I would say I did not do well, is remind yourself, hey, you were hired for a reason. I think that's a good mentality to have. I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever sat there and was like, okay, like I'm here because I deserve to be. And that's something that you should do. So I admire that, Matt Brown. I think that's a good takeaway from this for at least me. For maybe anybody else out there listening, it's good to remind yourself that obviously you can hold yourself to a certain standard, to a certain pedigree because somebody else did.
For sure. And
yeah.
that will, and have that not take away anything from your work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
You have it in you to do it. This isn't rocket science.
Right.
It's practical, and a lot of it is common sense.
Right.
So just do your job, no matter if you're a PA, no matter if you're the EP, no matter if you're the grip, no matter if you're the talent.
Right.
You all have it together for a common purpose. Most importantly, as also the words that Bourdain says himself, you're here to, most of the time, depending on the programs, whether unscripted or scripted, you're here to entertain, inspire, and influence all the people watching. And you will affect some audiences like that. Wouldn't you agree with that, Brendan?
The mic. All right. Yo, what's up, guys? So, absolutely. Bags said something earlier before, right? Every single person in life is going to take the L, right?
Yeah.
We are all going to take the L. But let me finish that statement for you. After L comes ESSON. Every time we lose in life, we're going to learn from it.
Right.
Every failure leaves a seed to success. There's something else I was going to add, but I forgot. But that's one point where Bags was going in. I was like, yeah, man, that's right there. But
Bars.
Yo, just listening to Bags right now, I've learned so much, right? Oh, I think this is what I was going to add. Bags talking about the pressure's high, right? And we can get where we're at in the process, right? We've all accomplished a lot. Think about where you start and where you are now, right? We are focusing on the next destination we want to get to, but we forget about where we started. We all have to be proud of ourselves on how far we came, right? Bags was talking about, recognize and be proud of yourself. Also, I want to add to that, forgive yourself, right?
Yeah.
We're all carrying on this weight of something that we shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? We wish we did, we could have done, all this stuff, forget yourself. But also, the last point I want to add is, Bags was coming, and he was talking about every time you walk into a room, if you aren't as hungry as you were yesterday, you're someone's prey today.
Yes, sir.
So,
love that.
Period.
That's a bar right there.
Period.
Well, thank you for that, Brendan.
Bars.
I totally agree. I'm sure Ryan agrees. But at the end of the day,
no
matter if it's media or any other industry, you could do it. Just be aware of how important and how valuable your opportunity is, and how highly paced the environment is to working in media, especially unscripted or anything live, and obviously anything scripted as well. But we can pull it off, and we believe in it. So, spinning into that, Ryan.
Yeah.
Now, working for ESPN itself, you talked about a lot of the benefits you've gotten personally and professionally.
Sure.
Do you mind of us going into some of the more interesting aspects of going to these awesome events and stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah. Let's go into it.
So tell me, Ryan, you work at ESPN, and you must have been amongst some great people, high-profile people.
Yeah.
Do you mind telling us some of these great people of influence who you worked with?
Yeah, I mean the list is pretty long. There's a lot of great people that work there. But if I had to, nail down a list of 5 or 6 people that were fairly influential on me, or really enjoyed working with them, I would say Scott Van Pelt is probably my number one. Definitely a legend. One of the nicer guys I've worked with. Very. It can definitely come off there's a little intimidation factor, right? Because it's Scott Van Pelt. I mean, he's one of the most notorious SportsCenter anchors ever.
For a long time.
Been there for a long time. Watched him as a kid. So that was pretty cool to work with him. I remember. It must have been, thank you, Brendan. It must have been the 3rd time we worked together. And I was 22. And I think I was challenging him on something. I didn't agree with what he wanted to have in our show. We had produced a show for the ESPN app after he did SportsCenter. So.
And you said this despite being a newly hired, straight out of college. You gave him constructive criticism.
I had been there for a year at this point, but I had never worked with him. Okay. This was like the third time we had worked together. It literally, I had started a new show with him that week, and it had been the third time me and him had literally sat down in the same room.
Okay. Tell me about
what
happened.
I disagreed with him. I kind of told him, like, hey, like, we're going to, like, we should do this story. He said, sure, let's do it. And we did it, and it came out great. Bosses were super happy about it. Got an email about it, said, oh, this was great, awesome job, all this stuff. He watched it. He said it was good. He was impressed with the production value. It was just me working on it. It was by myself, so I shot, produced, edited the whole thing, which is a lot of work. That's a 10, 12-hour shift. Usually, by the time we finished doing that show, we had 3 people working on shows instead of 1. So it was a lot. And he came up to me and he said, hey, how old are you? I'm 22. And he looks at me and he's like, you got a lot of balls for a 22-year-old. He goes, nobody comes in here and tells me that they disagree with me. And that's not him being cocky. That's not him saying, like, how dare you talk to me like that, right? He's not like that. But he just was kind of surprised that, he's like, you challenged me. And, like, you didn't come and just say, oh, this is the way it's going to be. You said, this is why I think this. And we had good conversations, and we had a great relationship for over a year. We worked together, and I'll never forget a lot of things he told me. One thing he told me last time we worked together, he said, listen, no matter what you do, wherever you go, you are going to be great. And I said, why do you say that? He goes, you are one of the smartest people I've ever worked with in this company. And I mean, 23 years old, right? Like, he's worked with, you got to think about how many producers this guy's worked with in 20 years. Not 100,000, but hundreds and hundreds of people he's worked with, right? And he said, you are one of the smartest people I've ever worked with and one of the hardest workers. And I couldn't believe it, right? It has shaken me to this day. I couldn't believe that. It's an absolute honor to work with that guy. Just unbelievable.
I commend you on that, Ryan.
I appreciate that.
You ever use that in interviews?
Yeah, I mean, I probably should start, right? I mean, I feel like
I wanted to ask, as you were saying that, like, what gave you the confidence to give that kind of criticism to SVP?
So, I don't think it's a confidence thing. I think it's just knowing your shit, right? Like, I don't necessarily say I'm confident or not confident. I'm just who I am. And if you don't agree with what I have to say, that's fine. We don't necessarily have to agree on anything, but I have never been afraid to speak up my opinion. Like, when I first got hired at ESPN, I was 21, and a week into meetings, I was talking in meetings, more so than people had been there for 20 years. And it just was because that's what I thought was right. If I have an idea, I'm going to speak. And it didn't matter who it was to. It's my job. I was told, if you tell me this is your show, you are the producer for this show. You write this show, you edit this show, you shoot this show, you plan this show, then my opinion matters. And my boss knew that. My talent knew that. Scott and other SportsCenter anchors we did it with, they knew that. They knew it was my job. And I knew that. So if everybody involved has agreed that I'm the producer and I'm controlling the content, obviously in cohesion with talent, then I'm going to speak. And, just because other people are more hesitant to speak, excuse me, more hesitant to speak, or are just choose not to and don't want to, don't care to, that's fine. But I don't operate that way. I'm going to speak my mind if I have something to say.
Why do you think you're someone who's willing to speak his mind? Is it from past experiences? You want to see things change? Is it from just being inspired by somebody else as an influence, or is he someone who generally stands for the right thing?
It's just having an idea. I mean, it's just being passionate about what you're doing. If I didn't care, then sure, you can do whatever you want. I'll edit it. I'll throw it together and post it. I'll cash my check. That's what I'll do. But I feel passionately about things I do. Even if, I don't really care about baseball that much anymore. I used to when I was younger, but it's not my favorite, right? But when I produce a show about baseball, I'm producing a show. My name is on this show. ESPN's name is on this show, or whatever company I'm working for is on this show. And I represent that company, and I represent this show. So I'm going to bust my ass. It doesn't matter if I'm passionate about the subject matter or not. I'm going to actively think about how I can make it better, and I'm going to actively work towards that. And nothing's going to hold me back in that regard. Unless I'm actively told not to speak up, if I'm actively told not to try, then sure, I'll do that. But if I'm told, hey, like, let's get this done, I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to inject myself into it.
Where do you think that passion comes from to do the right thing or job like that?
Existing, I don't know. I mean, I've just always been this way.
Yeah. It's like, do you think even as your adolescence years, while you're growing, you're always somebody who's willing to put that passion there?
Sure. I mean, it's definitely grown over the years. Like, just as you become a person and more confident in yourself and who you are, I think I've always had kind of an explosive personality and kind of a drive to myself. I'm always trying to go over the top and put 110% effort into everything I do. But, I mean, it's definitely accelerated over the years. You know, you meet people and you kind of see, like, people like that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when you're 12, 13 years old and, you know, you're kind of the chubby kid in school and, you know, you're not the coolest kid in school, maybe people don't understand you and you kind of feel shunned for being that, you know, that explosive personality, fun, effort, just great person to be around. That's what I pride myself on being. I pride myself on being the life of the party, or, you know, the energy in the room, or, you know, the active thinker in the room. And then when you start to see people like that, you know, when you get to college and, you know, you show up and you're hyping everybody up and everybody likes that, you know, that kind of gives you more confidence to continue to tap into that. And I think that definitely helped me in my professional career as well, because when you show up and it's, you know, 12 white guys at a table and they're talking about ideas for the night and none of them are exciting because they're all miserable fucks. You know what I mean? It's okay to be a little different, be the kid in the room, be excited about sports, because guess what? We all like sports. That's why we're here. That's why people buy the content. That's why we have $1 billion company, is because at the end of the day, you know, you were a 7-year-old kid watching the Yankees shitting your pants when Derek Jeter hit a home run or something, right? You know what I mean?
Every day.
That's what gets you excited. So let's get excited, because we're not going to be in this room and be all bunch of grumpy assholes and just try to figure shit out, because guess what? The content is going to be for grumpy assholes. But the people at home that are watching this are not grumpy assholes. They're a bunch of kids or young adults or adults. It doesn't matter how old they are. It's a bunch of people that are here because they love the sport. They love sports. Or whatever it is, right?
We need sports.
Yeah, I mean, if you work at a news company, people are watching it because they want to know something, or they're excited about it, right? People will actively watch stuff because they want to, so let's act that way. You know what I mean? Let's have some energy. Let's have some fun.
The big gist I get is, you know, pulling off that genuine passion and genuine interest. And were you ever a shy person at any point at all, or
No.
it was always off the bat like this?
Yeah, I mean, maybe when I was like 4 or 5, like I remember like maybe like pre-K, kind of like hesitant to throw yourself out there at school. But I would say once I started, you know, interacting with like a lot of people,
and that's when that passion and your genuine nature started growing off the bat. And then that's why probably once the opportunity presented itself, when you saw your job opening back in right after school, summer 2017, the opportunity's there to interview at ESPN. Obviously, big company, big influence. And then, did you just explain like what I did, you know, prior to the experience you had working at ESPN for the last few years? When you're actually interviewing for the job itself, were you somebody who just showed that personality and genuine interest, and why you probably were picked
during the
various,
interview? Like during the interview process?
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of hard to convey in a 30-minute interview, right? It's kind of hard to convey, you know, the energy and your personality. It's a difficult thing, right? Because you can come in there and you can be all over the place, which I kind of am at times.
Right.
And if you do that, they might not take you as a professional, right? They might not consider you to be professional. Especially when you're 21 and fresh out of college, they might just be like, okay, this kid needs to go to college for another 2 years because he's not ready.
Really?
So when you go into the interview, you can convey your excitement for the job. You can convey your excitement for the opportunity. And you can be fun and be yourself, but at the end of the day, you've got to package that properly. And I think that's what I'm doing now in this interview, right? I mean, this isn't for a job, but Like, I'm not like, oh my God, and I'm not like jumping around, like throwing the mic and shit,
Right.
you know, I'm not fucking being crazy. But, you know, you can convey your excitement for things professionally and concisely. You don't necessarily need to be all over the place trying to convey that you're fun. You kind of show that through action. You know, once you actually have the job, you can kind of convey your personality that way. It's definitely a difficult thing to balance and do during an interview, though.
So why do you think, out of all of these things you explained to us,
Sure.
out of going through the trials and tribulations, why do you think ESPN decided to hire you?
Well, I would say for a multitude of reasons. I didn't get like a sexy job, you know what I mean? Like when I first got hired, I was a part-time producer, 28 hours a week, making shit money, working shit hours, working weekends. Off days were like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I worked like Thursday through Sunday. And I would work way more than 28 hours, but I'd get paid for 28 hours. So I think that was part of it, is that nobody really wanted that job. They told me after the fact that, you know, 100 people sent applications for that job.
Yep.
Because you got to keep in mind, a lot of the people that get hired at ESPN get hired from like California or like Texas or Florida or anywhere in the country, right? They get hired from all over the world. When it's a part-time job, it kind of makes it difficult to move from Florida to Bristol, Connecticut on 28 hours a week. You can't. So that completely limited who was applying for that job. I was told that I was the most qualified person that applied for that job, and I didn't have a job. You know, like all the people that they had talked to just
what
weren't
made you qualified
ready for it. The experience I had in college. They were you know, they were kind of limited with the job, but they needed to fill it. The thing is, they told me after the fact that you know, that part-time job, that after they promoted me to full-time about 6 months later. They eliminated that position because a part-time job doesn't help them. So it was kind of luck of the draw, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it was very lucky that I got in. I think they were pleasantly surprised by the quality of the work that I did immediately, because like when you hire a 21-year-old, you can't expect the world, right? You can't expect the kid to come in and just be the most brilliant video editor producer that you've ever seen. But I think they were a little surprised because, you know, probably about a month in, I was getting into a gear. You know, I was kind of impressing people a little bit, and I think they were happy with the hire. And then, you know, it worked out pretty well for a few years. It was pretty good.
Great. Do you think luck has anything to do with it, or is it genuine hard work and
It's luck for sure. In regards to just success in general, or like this in particular?
And this in particular, what is lead to
luck
moving forward?
For moving forward, it's a blend of things, right? Because luck is a massive thing. Like timing is just huge, right?
And luck of time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, you know, let's just say you want to get promoted, right? You've been at a company for 5 years, and you leave because they didn't promote you for 5 years. You're sick and tired of them. Well, a month later, they have an opening for a promotion, and if you stayed, you would have had it, right? But then you went somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Like if that timed out a little different, then you would have been promoted. You'd stay there for another 10 years. You get promoted again. Like who knows, right? It's all about timing and luck and opportunity. Now, like when you are really talented, that fucking helps a lot. And when you know a shit ton of people, that helps a lot, right? Like when you know the CEO of the company, like that's pretty damn good. And like when you got 10 years experience and you got an Emmy or something like that, that's pretty damn good. But it doesn't matter if the timing's off, right? Because if you're the most qualified person in the world for a job, but there's no job opening, well, what the fuck are you gonna do, right? So you need a little luck and a little timing and a little opportunity there to take advantage of your skill and your experience as well.
And I'm sure you could agree, don't let that discourage you when you find the luck.
Sure.
Just always keep pushing, and one day,
Yep.
you know, isn't luck is when hard work and timing comes together at the right place at the right time.
That's fair to
say. Is that what they say? Was that the right quote, Bryant?
That's what I was going to say. So, yeah. I don't care who you are. Me, Bags, and Breezy, we've all been lucky, right? Anyone who's listening has been lucky. But luck is when hard work and preparation meet at the same time.
You have anything to add to that, Ryan?
No, it's a bar. I mean, it's well said. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And then also just in general, you know, luck is important for a lot of things. But that doesn't necessarily need to deter you from working hard. You know, like you shouldn't just be like, all right, well, fuck it. I'm not going to work hard because Ryan said, oh, you just got to be lucky and then things will happen for you. Because you can be really lucky and then not take advantage of your luck, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You can have shit fall right into your lap, but if you don't want to work for it, it doesn't matter, right? Because when I say you have to be lucky for things to happen, you still have to take advantage of the opportunity. Because, you know, you can be lucky and win the lottery. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. But you can be lucky and meet somebody. Yeah. And when you meet somebody, let's just say you meet Bob Iger, right?
The great Bob Iger, a.k.a. the CEO, well,
former CEO
of the Walt Disney Corporation.
Correct. So let's just say you meet Bob Iger. Well, whoop-de-fucking-do. But guess what? Meeting Bob Iger is an opportunity. Because if you hit it off with Bob Iger, I'm not saying this is a possibility, but let's just say you meet Bob Iger at a restaurant in L.A. You hit it off, you eat dinner together, and he thinks you're the greatest guy in the world, and he hires you to be like his personal videographer, pays you $50 an hour. That's an opportunity. But if you meet Bob Iger, and you just meet Bob Iger and say hi, and leave, that was an opportunity. I'm not saying you should take advantage of every opportunity you get, because guess what? You hitting it off with Bob Iger and getting dinner together is extremely unlikely and probably would never happen. But let's just say that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity that you need to take advantage of and that you need to work through, right? I've met tons of producers who I've reached out to after the fact, and that was the opportunity that I chose. Shit like that can fall into your lap every day. But if you don't pursue it, then guess what? That luck that you had in meeting that person or being introduced to that person or working with that person, you not pursuing it after the fact is a missed opportunity. And that's how you fuck up luck, right? Because let's just say, for example, a great guy I've worked with, another guy at ESPN who I've worked with who no longer works there. He's over at NFL Network. He's doing a ton of things because he's a star. Andrew Hawkins used to play in the NFL for the Browns and the Bengals. Went to Toledo in college. I have the privilege of calling him a friend, and I've worked with him a lot. But the thing is, the opportunity there was when I met him, I'm like, wow, this guy's really good, and he's a really nice guy. So, you know, I'm going to go talk to him. And I talked to him, and we became friends. You know, we joked around. We had similar senses of humor, and we worked really well together. So, you know, I've worked with him a little bit on the side, like trying to help him out with some personal projects, and we're still friends and, you know, keep in touch. But that, and I'm not saying I view every, you know, meet as an opportunity, because that's a weird way of thinking. But
I mean, for, you know, your server at Don
right.
just said, this is a big opportunity. Who knows where she goes?
And also, it's a little selfish to think that way too.
Yeah.
You know, not everything's about you. But I did take advantage of meeting him. I pursued that friendship. I pursued that partnership. I pursued him because I saw an opportunity for myself, and also I just consider myself to be a fairly nice person. So I wanted to also just be nice to him because he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
And that's worked out for me. And that is how it happens for a lot of people. Are you familiar with the story with how Rich Paul met LeBron James?
Please tell us.
So,
who's Rich Paul for anyone who doesn't know?
Oh, I thought you didn't know for a second.
I know Rich Paul.
Scared me. I met him last year, or this year.
Not related to Jake and Logan Paul.
No, I met him in Philly this year. He's a great, really nice guy.
But for those who don't know, can you explain what's going on?
Rich Paul is LeBron James' agent, and I think that's enough to say, right? I mean, he's the owner and proprietor of Clutch Sports, and he is the agent for LeBron, Anthony Davis, a ton of really good NBA players, Lonzo Ball, the list goes on. And he met LeBron because when LeBron was 17, 18 years old in Akron, Ohio, he wanted to buy a Houston Oilers jersey. And Rich Paul was selling jerseys out of his car, in the back of his car, in his trunk. And he sold it to him, and they became friends. Sold him a couple more jerseys, and just kept talking to LeBron, and they became really good friends. And LeBron went to the NBA, and they were friends for a while, and then a couple years into the NBA, Rich Paul was like, "Hey, I want to be your agent," and LeBron said, "Yeah," and he became his agent, and Rich Paul got really good at being an agent and understanding finance, and working with Maverick Carter, who was another partner of LeBron James.
Right.
That whole crew is incredible. Really got smart with that kind of stuff, made a ton of connections, and is one of the biggest agents in the NBA. If not, he is the biggest agent in the NBA. He's got such a list of incredible clients. Work ethic's incredible, and you know what? He gets a lot of shit. A lot of people say he's not the nicest guy. All this shit. First of all that crap that all the things you see people say, just don't listen to that shit, man. Because like it's all subjective. You catch somebody on a bad day, and you think they're the worst person in the world. Forever. I worked with Rich Paul earlier this year in Philadelphia. He was there. Ben Simmons, another one of his clients, another NBA All-Star. He was in Philly for that game, and LeBron was there too. Anthony Davis was also there. It was Lakers, Sixers, so it makes sense for Rich Paul to be there. 3 of his clients are playing. And it was the night that LeBron passed Kobe, the day before Kobe died. Yeah. And we were at the game, and he was the nicest guy. I mean, just over-the-top nice, just answered any question you had for him, and a lot of the time, like, guys will just, like, hand you their stuff and, like, get out of my face. And, he, like, handed me this, he's like, could you please hold this? Like, he was very nice. Over-the-top nice, great conversation with him. And we can talk more about that Philly game after if you want, if we can get into Kobe stuff, because there's some pretty crazy things that happened there. But, yeah, Rich Paul, great guy.
Before we transfer into that, I just want to ask, just before the last thing on career development and anything of that nature, what would you say to anybody who, A, is pursuing a career in media? How should they approach an opportunity if it's presented to them? And what would you say once you're actually on the other side? What should you do?
This is in media or sports media?
This is in media.
Just media in general. So, like, how to get into it, and then kind of how to handle it.
Yeah. Say you're trying to be a PA, trying to do something entry level or whatever. You actually interviewing for the position.
Okay.
How do you present yourself? And then once you're on the other side, what do you do to stay in the game?
Well, I would say this first. Prior to interviews, apply to everything. Let's keep that in mind before we start talking about interviewing. Because you never know. Apply for jobs that you don't want. Apply for jobs you're not qualified for. Because you simply never know. Like the New York Times, they could be hiring an executive producer tomorrow, and guess what? Nobody in this room is qualified for that job. Excuse me. But if all 3 of us apply for it, and they happen to just think, oh, Matt Brown, that guy seems kind of cool. He seems like he's got some unique experience. Let's just bring him in. That could happen. So apply for every job. I'll say that first. Now, when you're presenting yourself to a company or a large media conglomerate, and you're trying to sell yourself, I think it's important just to lay everything out there. It's not necessarily any way you specifically portray yourself. It's not anything you say in particular, but I think it's just important to lay it all out there. That's the most important thing, and to be confident in that. If you show up and you're not confident, you're shaking in your boots, you're sweating and all that good jazz, like they're gonna think that you can't handle pressure. And I think that goes for any field. I think that goes for any kind of interview, but specifically media, man, because there's just so much pressure when you're recording television or you're doing live TV or. If you have a limited amount of time with like a guest, that's a huge thing, right? Because I mean, you know this. When you have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you don't have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for 3 hours. You have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for 7 minutes and 45 seconds or whatever it is, right? It's limited. So like there's pressure, and there's pressure in every environment, but there's a ton of pressure in media. And if you can't handle it, then they're not going to want to hire you. So I think it's important to be confident and to not waver. Now, in regards to handling how to work in media, like when you're a fresh, like you're fresh to the game.
Yep. Or anytime you're on the other
side. It's difficult, right? Because you need to make sure people know who you are. I think that's a big thing, especially when you work in a big media conglomerate, right? When you work in a massive company like ESPN or Nickelodeon or MTV or CNN, right? Like all these companies that we've worked with, you need to stand out. Because there's 25 other people at your position, at your age, that are trying to stand out as well.
Exactly.
It's just like we talk about like dating apps, right? Like you gotta stand out. There's a lot of freaking guys on those dating apps, right? Like these girls are getting lots of options, right? You gotta stand out a little bit. It goes the same way for your employer as well. So it's important to do that, but at the same time, you want to be likable, you want to be confident, but you need to be humble, right? You can't go in there and be Mr. Hotshot and be like, I'm the smartest guy in the room, because guess what? Nobody likes that shit.
No.
That's something that I've had to balance. I've struggled with that because, when you come in all confident at 22, 23, 24, like I have, there's been issues where older people think I'm too cocky or, a little too confident for how old I am or my position. But at the same time, when you're doing that, when you're that confident and you're that excited about work and you have this many ideas, you got to remember to be humble as well. Take your wins and losses like we were talking about earlier, but take them quietly, right? Nobody likes a loud loser, and everybody hates a loud winner. I'll tell you that right now.
That's one thing I really learned and caught on to. Is like wins are great, but they're always short at the end of the day. Even if you win an Oscar, you have to worry. If you were like an actor,
when am I going to win the next one?
Whether that or most importantly, just adding to why you create a great story. If we're talking about a specific actor or anybody in media, because at the end of the day, we're storytellers.
Sure.
Even in unscripted television, you're still telling a story.
Yep.
Obviously, the news and any sports games.
Yep.
We just have to do our part in presenting that. And we've been fortunate enough to have those opportunities.
Yep.
We're still extremely young. We still have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But we don't take it for granted. We know what we can add to the table.
Right.
And we also know that as long as we're nice and we work hard, whether it's something we want initially or down the line, but regardless, good things will happen.
Sure.
Just keep pushing with that.
Yeah.
Man, this is awesome. Awesome portion of this conversation. Now that we could completely switch gears. So it's kind of similar because we could both share on this sense.
Sure.
When we're talking about encounters with, whether it's a celebrity or high-profile person.
Okay.
I'm sure, like you said, I've been fortunate enough to have some opportunities, whether it's at MTV,
Anthony
CNN,
Bourdain, like that's pretty fucking cool.
Yep, Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
Or that was a real pleasure to have that. So yes, I was a gopher for him for a day.
Okay.
But that's just the day for me personally. I remember. I did not know who Anthony Bourdain was. I swear, I didn't know the thing.
Like, how the fuck, man? I remember you told me that. You were like, yeah, I'm working with this chef guy. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he sends me a picture. and I looked at it, I was like, is that fucking Anthony Bourdain? I was like, this motherfucker doesn't know who Anthony Bourdain is. I remember seeing one of my buddies. I was like, hey, Matt Brown's with fucking Anthony Bourdain right now. He thinks he's fucking with Emeril Lagasse or something. Like Guy Fieri, right? Fucking bleach blonde hair. By the way, Guy Fieri, great guy.
We'll get into some of that
but
stuff.
Fucking didn't know who Anthony Bourdain was. I can't believe that.
Yeah, no, I texted you like, the chef guy. You ever heard of him? And the way it broke down was, so yes, I was an intern for CNN, and I specifically interned for the program development and the talents team. The one actually creative side, though unscripted still, we had Jeff Zucker come in, CNN 2012, and he presented the original programming, which has been a big hit ever since.
Right.
Whether right now you have successful miniseries as the movies or the Decade series.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
I particularly worked on the Kennedys,
cool.
some stuff for HLN, like the Unabomber, and stuff like that. That's what I personally did.
Right.
And
pretty cool.
For program development.
Sure.
So obviously part of that, one of the biggest gets CNN has to show that they were legitimately creating original content was Anthony Bourdain, transferring from Travel Channel to now. And Parts Unknown has turned into one of the most influential, not only travel shows, not only food shows, but to present what this world has to offer.
Oh yeah.
So that was his big mark and ended in tragedy when we lost him back in 2018. But rest in peace indeed. Yes, so I worked with him for the day. He was there to do CNN promotion.
Right.
That was his deal.
What they call a car wash at ESPN when you do every show and you promote whatever you're promoting. And for him it was Parts Unknown, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Probably for you, whether they would offer a car wash to CNN, whether they would to First Take.
Sure. SportsCenter.
SportsCenter. Like that's your version of it.
Right. For CNN it was
CNN
Cuomo.
We had a lot of the hour shows. So back then we had Don Lemon.
That's kind of interesting though, right? Isn't that kind of interesting where it's like you take because it's a cooking show, right? And Anthony Bourdain is like, it's different. You know what I mean? Like it's not. To me, it doesn't scream CNN. So like imagine like a 7-minute segment with Anthony Bourdain on like fucking Cuomo. Like, to me, that's just such a weird change of pace. Like, imagine being the producer of that show. And be like, all right, the A's, we're going to talk about Wall Street. B's, we're going to talk about COVID. C's, we're going to bring in a cussing, like, nobody gives a fuck chef.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to go back to, like, war in the D's.
Exactly.
Like, that's just, like, kind of a weird rundown anyways.
The big selling twist was the actual just... it really was a culture show. Like,
yep.
Not only you saw the food, but you saw whether you're in an impoverished nation, or whether you're in a third world country, and stuff like that. And that was, I guess, the real twist that CNN presented for itself. And we've seen other shows spin off to do well with it. W. Kamau Bell's United Shades of America, This Life of Lisa Ling, other stuff like that.
Okay.
But anyways, so yeah, my job that day was to just go for it. Walk them around, as simple as that.
That's cool as shit, though.
One of my mentors, Brittany, I was very fortunate that she said, "Yeah, you have to take care of Tony for the day." I was like, "Okay." And the way it worked, and sorry if I repeated this before, but I haven't really gone deep into it. But, I go and I see this guy just chilling. This tall guy. He's probably like 6'4", 6'5", if I remember correctly. Wow. Definitely he's taller than me. I'm exactly 6 feet, so he was a few inches taller, and. Yeah, he was smoking an American Spirit.
I was going to say, he was a big bogey. Big into bogeys.
And he's just chilling. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. Like, I must have been people looking at us. Oh, I think Bourdain. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Bourdain, my ID. I'm here to help you today." He's like, "Nice to meet you." And then the rest of the day, he didn't talk to me. I just had to move around with that. "Nice to meet you."
How long were you with him?
The whole day. Like, it was
like
pretty much...
8 hours?
Okay, it was probably like...
Like 4 or 5 hours? It was like
4 or 5 hours. It was right after lunch. So I think I was with him from 12:30 to 5:30.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's a long time for him to say like 3 words to you.
Exactly. I remember being in a specific room
in
one of the offices, and we just chilled. He was reading his new book at the time.
Yep.
And I would just walk him around in various places, people talking to him. He had this project. I don't know if COVID derailed this, but it was Google's buying a lot of property down in specifically the Soho area. I don't know if it was derailed because of Bourdain's passing, but he was or obviously now COVID, but they're like trying to make like one of the neighborhoods almost. I think Google even wants to like. This is a joke. This isn't literal that I know, but like they're buying a lot of land, and they're kicking a lot of places out, and they want it all Google.
In Soho, you said?
In Soho, yeah, Soho and Manhattan.
Oh.
That's the plan at the time. Now, this was years ago.
Okay.
I don't know how different it is, but I know that more Google, like for instance, I know there's this one building that Viacom's in that someone was telling me that Google is interested in buying that specific property.
In Soho?
Yeah, and they're just trying to make like a Google camp as much as they can with Manhattan.
That's insane.
Obviously, they have the money to do it.
How many billions of dollars? How many hundreds of millions of dollars are they going to spend on real estate?
Probably billions, Ryan.
I would say probably $1 billion, because I mean.
You're right. In Lower Manhattan, over
you
there.
Think about it this way, right? You think about buildings in New York, where massive companies have.
They're getting bigger and bigger. We're seeing a lot of new skyscrapers.
Sure, but the thing is, like, a lot of these big companies don't own whole buildings. They own floors and they own sections, right?
Exactly.
Like ESPN has a studio in New York City. It's on Pier 17.
Yep.
But it's part of a building. It's a floor.
It's not theirs, yeah.
They don't own the whole building. So like the fact that Google is buying buildings and trying to build that's insanity. Because like think about it this way, right? The only time like that there's like a lot of like companies that own the whole building. Like think about like the New York Times and Times Square. They own that building. But how long has that building been there? Right? Think about it that way, right? Think about how long that these companies have owned the building, right? It's a long time. You're kind of grandfathered in.
Sure.
It's gotten to the point where real estate in New York is so expensive that nobody's buying buildings anymore. So the fact that Google is just tells you how much footprint they're putting into it. It's pretty insane.
Obviously, COVID probably now has made an influence of that, but at the time that was the plan. But
right, they're talking about they don't have people coming in at all now.
Exactly, and you're seeing a lot of companies are moving out. I even saw with Goldman Sachs, it was reported their asset management team's going to Florida. They're leaving Wall Street to go to Florida.
Tesla's going to Texas. Like, I mean, there's a lot of talk of complete remote working for a lot of these companies, right, like Google. But then there's also talk of going to states with no income tax or less tax on big corporations.
Tennessee, Florida, and Texas are the big three.
Right. Tesla's going to Texas. Nashville, Tennessee, like Brendan just said, is a big hub. I mean, it makes sense.
Miami.
I mean, like, why would let's just talk about Connecticut for a second, right? Like General Electric left Connecticut, right? Why the fuck would you want to have your campus in Connecticut? The amount of taxes in Connecticut is insane.
Oh yeah.
The only reason why ESPN still has a campus in Connecticut, right? Because you got to think about it, right? They've got studios in Miami. They own part of a building in LA. They own part of a building in New York. They own a building in Charlotte. So why have a big campus in Connecticut, right? The taxes are ridiculous. Well, it's because, one, they get a ton of tax cuts from Connecticut because it's one of the biggest businesses in Connecticut. They employ a ton of people. But on top of that, think about how much land they own.
Exactly.
You've been to the ESPN campus.
Yeah, you brought me there. It was a lot of fun.
Right.
Think about that.
It's bigger than a college campus.
Yeah.
So think about that, right? There's nowhere they're going to get that much land and be able to put that many buildings and that much footprint. In regards to that, they're never going to be able to do that. So they'll never get rid of that campus. As much as people talk about, oh, you could just L.A. can be the main campus or New York can be the main campus. It'd be so easy to get people there. Guess what? They're so big, they don't care. They're going to have both, right? Like you're talking about, oh, Kevin Hart's not going to fly to Bristol, right? When you see people on ESPN now, like celebrities come on, they're not on the SportsCenter set. They come to Get Up. They go to First Take because it's in New York.
Yep.
And people are like, oh, well, then why have Bristol? They can have both. It doesn't matter.
Geographically, New York City, for the longest time, it's the number one city in the Western world. Maybe you could say it's number 2 now. Boston, we're saying number 4, right? You could probably say number 4, top 5, right? Geographically, you're in between a number 1 and a number 5 city in the world. So it's a great location geographically.
Yeah, that too. I mean, the thing is, not a lot of people come to Connecticut anymore. Like, not a lot of, like, I would say almost none, like, before COVID. Like, right when I first started, like, we were still having people come in. Like, I remember Brock Lesnar came in, Mark Wahlberg came in, Jake Gyllenhaal came in. But now that now that the New York studio's there, when you see people come on ESPN, like Kevin Hart came on ESPN last year to promote a movie he was in. I think it was Night School with Tiffany Haddish. Oh, that movie's so bad. But I love Kevin Hart. He'll come up later. He's a great guy. When he was on Get Up and First Take, he didn't go to Connecticut. Like, why? He's in New York already. He's doing press for... That's the thing, right, about these car washes that we were talking about earlier, like Bourdain.
Yep.
When they're, like... And people are starting to notice this more and more, I see on the internet. Because, like, you see Dwayne Johnson, right? He'll go on Ellen. Yeah. Or he'll go on Good Morning America. And then an hour later, he'll be on First Take on ESPN. And then 11:30, he'll be on... I don't know, some show on MTV, and then at 12:30 he'll be here. It's because he's in New York for the day, and he's going to go promote Jumanji on every goddamn network his agent says he can, or the company says he can, the company that made the movie, whatever it is, whatever the PR people are from. Whatever he's promoting, he's going to do it everywhere. So people are starting to notice, like, okay, like he was on this show, he's on Foul, and then he's on this, and he's on that, right? And it's because he's there for the day promoting it. And that's part of the reason why ESPN wanted the office in New York, because they wanted to get in on that, right?
Of course.
Because you can't say, hey, Dwayne Johnson, you're promoting Jumanji 3 on Good Morning America at 8. Can you drive up to Connecticut for take 2 hours to drive up, 2 hours to drive back? No, he's not going to do that. So it's easier for him to go down to, near Brooklyn, the southern part of Manhattan, on Pier 17, and then he'll just ride over to, back to Times Square to go on a Viacom show. And that's what they'll do.
And that's where, where you really notice the promos now with the Zoom promos that people are doing. They'll probably do it honestly forever. You can see them in the exact same clothes and the exact same setup.
Yeah.
It's just something I've noticed. And now with podcasts growing so much, you see people on the same podcast in the same time. Like Matthew McConaughey is on every single podcast, every single my main podcast.
Yeah.
Martin might take Rogan, Martin Maron, Bill Simmons. He was on all of them in the same exact clothes, in the same exact... setup, but obviously they're just talking about things.
And you know what sucks about that though is it feels so unnatural. It just feels so like, because it's a promotion. That's why they're there. That they wouldn't, like Matthew McConaughey would never go on Pardon My Take for shits and giggles, right? He's never gonna go on, like, pretty much. I honestly would say this. He's probably never gonna go on any show for shits and giggles. That's the thing that I think that you kind of turn a corner when you realize that in media, where you're like, oh shit, like the only reason the show ever gets guests is because they're trying to promote something. That's what it is. I mean, like Howard Stern, right? When he has guests,
and he was on Howard too as well.
Right. So that's like Howard Stern is big enough to where he gets guests just to get guests.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if they're in New York, like they'll come on Howard Stern, but they're in New York for a reason. So guess what? Before they go, they're gonna plug that they're at the Comedy Store for 3 nights this week. Like Artie Lang or some shit is gonna promote his show. Just keep that in when you're watching stuff. People that aren't really big media people, when you watch an interview, listen for the promo because it will always come.
Yeah, at the end they say, so what do you have to? They say
literally all the time. What are you promoting?
And at the end it's like, okay, where can we see this? Where can we see this movie?
Well, it's always a book. It's always a movie. It's always a show. It's always a concert. It's something, right?
Yeah.
Which
I still love that stuff.
it's kind of hard to realize that. It's kind of like a tough thing to swallow. It's like, oh shit, like this isn't just like, oh, they're not just hanging out having a beer, shooting the shit with Howard Stern. Right. Like it's like, okay, they're here because they want to make money, But at the end of the day, you also got to not give a fuck because guess what? It's still a cool interview, and Absolutely. It is what it is, right?
Dude, getting back to our original point with the celebrity encounters, right?
Sure.
And I mean that's the beauty of podcasts. Is it adds to these combos.
Yeah, man.
So that was my thing with Bourdain. It's a good time. It's awesome, and I've been fortunate to be around other great people from work, interacting.
Yeah.
Whether the ones that stick out of my head, A$AP Ferg from TRL.
That's awesome.
I always I've seen him before.
That's really cool.
I'd have to say Cardi B. For her birthday or her baby shower episode of TRL.
Yeah.
That was
That's
nice
awesome.
to be around, and a bunch of others throughout the times.
DC Young Fly.
What?
DC Young
DC
Fly.
Young Fly.
The most low maintenance talent ever. I can't believe that shit. I'll never forget when you told me that.
When I told you about his writer? Yeah.
No, the McDonald's.
Yeah, he was his writer at I think it's okay if I say this, right? With writers. Well, anyways, yes, it was just he just wanted something simple from a he just wanted McDonald's.
Yeah,
That's all it was.
The context there is, like you were getting a bunch of food for all the talent, and people wanted like the best steak from the best steakhouse in New York, like just pain in the ass shit, like all the way across New York City to get this piece of pizza or some shit.
Yeah.
And he just wanted a cheeseburger from
Exactly. That's all it was. Like that's the point of it.
Like you never hear that shit, man. Everybody's such a pain in the ass when
they'll pay anything. You know how it goes, Ryan, with writers. They get the most insane, specific things out there, and anything so specific, but yet, this guy just simply wanted a simple meal at McDonald's. So it's no problem at all. Like I say, I'm sure you have your very expensive company cards and
sure. Yeah, I mean, you could literally have gotten whatever you wanted, and I mean, I don't know. You don't necessarily have to be a McDonald's guy for me to like you as a talent, but like you're kind of cool, kind of like a little more laid back, a little more relatable than the guy that gets the $80 steak for lunch.
Absolutely, and DC Young Fly, he said the words "Matt Brown" in my name. This is what happened.
That's wild.
So like, as you work with producers with various different personalities, right?
Sure.
I'm sure you've met the most humble producers.
Yep.
You've met some producers who are very full of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And make this little thing, right? So all this producer asked was me to get orange juice for her. And so she's giving it. So she asked me as soon as you see me, and they were just doing a pre-show meeting.
Yeah.
I give it to her. It's like, this is Matt Brown, and everybody in front of the 23 crew on set, which had all the talent. He's like, yeah, Matt Brown. That's what DC Young Fly said. True story.
That's unbelievable. That's awesome.
I mean, hopefully he still remembers that. I mean, obviously, it's an easy name to remember. But Ryan, what about you, though? Who's been some of the most pleasant talent to work with? And is there any talent that was not pleasant to work with?
I probably won't reflect on not pleasant, just for the interest of
mystery
relationships. Just in case they come up in the future, and when I inevitably become super famous and this gets resurfaced in a few years, we don't need to burn any bridges. In regards to people that have been very pleasant to have met or to have worked with or to have tried to talk to bring on a show, I mean, like the list is endless, right? Like everybody's nice if you're nice, and they're in a good mood, right?
For sure.
some people that stick out, I would say Kevin Hart. We mentioned him a couple times earlier. He, I was in LA on Christmas last year, and we were doing the Lakers-Clippers game. I don't know if anybody is a big sports fan, but if you remember when Anthony Davis fell on Kevin Hart in that game, right before halftime. But yeah, after the game, I was walking in the tunnel, under the Staples Center, going to the production truck, and the people that are in the tunnel, you have to have courtside seats, or you have to be media, or you have to be working in the arena. So like, not a ton of there's a good amount of people, obviously. There's probably 1,000 people in that tunnel. But it's not like, the rest of the stadium. So it's a little secluded, whatever. And I was walking back to the truck. We had just, the game just ended, and I was just walking back to the production truck to go talk to some guys I knew. And I looked to my right, and Kevin Hart's just standing there. And I was just like, what? Like, that's...
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah. What's up, Ryan?
And I just, kind of, looked at him. I looked, and I was like, he's literally right there, and there's nobody around him, no security, no family. He's just standing there waiting for somebody. And as I'm walking towards him, I just see three very large human beings walking near him, and I'm like, those are some large dudes. Those are some basketball players. So I looked over, and it was Scottie Pippen, Paul Pierce, and LeBron James. And they all go up to him, and they're laughing, talking to him.
All these alone.
Yeah, because they're going to their car. People that work for the Lakers and Clippers are just lining up these beautiful cars, probably about 100 feet from us. So they're just setting them up to go into their cars and go home. And
Scottie Pippen was there.
Well, Scottie Pippen works for ESPN.
Oh yeah.
So, and so does Paul Pierce. So they're just shooting the shit, talking.
He's yo, yeah. LeBron, remember when we beat you?
Yeah. And I know Paul Pierce, so I said hi to Paul, and I went over and talked to him, and this was right after he walked away from Kevin. So they're all going to their cars, and Scotty's going back to the studio. The studio for ESPN studio in LA is directly across the street from Staples Center. It's literally 1,000 feet walk. So he was going there to talk to Rachel Nichols or something. And as they all walked away, I noticed my producer was probably 500 feet behind me. So I was like, okay, this is my opportunity. So I went over and talked to. I just went up to him hey, to Kevin Hart. I was just
What's
hey
up, man?
I was like, how you doing? I'm Ryan. He said, what's your name? And I was really shocked because it was just so nice to ask.
What's up, man?
It doesn't matter. I'm Ryan. It's really nice to meet you. I think you're really fucking funny. My sister loves your movies. I love your movies. You're great. Just keep up the good work. You're a good guy. And, we're rooting for you. And, he was just really nice and courteous. We had a little conversation. He said thank you for the kind words. And he's probably one of the most pleasant people I've ever interacted with. He just really came off positively. And just, is happy to be who he is. He's not, he doesn't take anything for granted, I think. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and you hear that in interviews in general and podcasts. Yeah. He's an awesome, humble dude. Didn't have
Super
it
talented.
easy. When people I feel like people like to shit on Kevin Hart for going a little too mainstream after his humble.
Who cares, man? Let him get that money.
No, that's my very argument for the rest of my life. Is he was the one who worked hard to get to that position.
Right.
So why push him down for it?
I mean, he had been in, he had been doing comedy for a long time.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I don't remember.
Him on what
this was Scary Movie 3 in 2004.
Yeah, he's earning it.
Yeah, he busted his ass, man. Let him sign a $75 million contract with Netflix to produce some mainstream stand-up. Who cares? Let him get the bag.
Yo, that's what I say when people like to try to. I mean, of course, when I talk about high-profile people who really made it and who's chosen one, of course. There's, like anyone else, there's some people who I personally don't feel hey, I'm not feeling it, or I don't necessarily know if they ain't particularly deserve it, but who the fuck am I to say that too? They're the ones who earned it, who got into that lucky position and made the opportunity.
They took advantage of that opportunity.
So, who am I to say, of course,
Agreed.
Obviously there's more people who I think are more deserving than others, but at the end of the day, they did something right to earn that position.
Do you want to hear a really funny story? Okay, so I was in Vegas. It was the first time I'd been to Vegas. Only time I've been to Vegas so far. Definitely going to go back. It's a good time. And we were there for NBA Summer League. And this was the last time that they've had Summer League because last year they canceled it. probably going to cancel it this year. But I was there 2 years ago now. It'll be 2 years this July. And it was a big deal because this was when Zion got drafted, and everybody wanted to see Zion play. And we were sent to Vegas to produce a show because of Zion.
How about that?
Oh, yeah. So we get out there, and, we're pre-producing the show, and I hear somebody go, I think we had just finished the show. We were doing a pregame show. And if you remember, the Pelicans were playing the Knicks. They were playing R.J. Barrett and the Knicks, so it was a big deal. It was 1 versus 2, or 1 versus 3. And I just hear somebody go, "Is that LeBron?" And I was like, "Oh my God!" Right? I had never met LeBron at this point. I've met LeBron a couple times at this point, but like now, today, I've met him a couple times. But like at the time, I had never even like been real close to him. Right? I had seen him from a distance before at games and stuff, going to Celtics games as a kid. But then I'm like, "Oh shit! Like this is a big deal." And the way they have it set up in Vegas for the studio hits is it's at where UNLV plays.
Yep.
I forget what the center is called, but it's like whatever. It's where UNLV plays in Vegas. It's off the strip a little bit.
Yep.
And the court is set up, and then it's like a regular gym, but then they have like these big rafters that they set up, like these temporary stages, and it's like lifted, so you have to go up these stairs. And I heard it from down below, so I knew LeBron was like below us. So I went down the stairs pretty quickly. I think my producer saw me kind of like dip, and he was like, "Oh Jesus, here we go." And I get to the bottom of the stairs, and a security guy pushes me, and is like, "Hey, you can't walk down here." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I realized I didn't have my credential on. I had it on, but it was like under something. It was like covered. And I just pulled it out, and he was just like, "Oh, go ahead." And I just like was pretending I had to go to like the truck.
Yeah.
And I walk, I take a left, and standing 3 feet to my left is LeBron James and Jason Kidd. Because Jason Kidd had just signed on as a coach with the Lakers. And I just like looked and was just like in awe. And I walked right by them, and I can't believe I said this. I go, like in the deepest voice I could go, I just go, "What up, Bron?" I just as soon as I did it, I just like was like, "Fuck!" Like, what did I just do?
Like you couldn't blame anybody else.
I couldn't. What else am I gonna say? I kind of said it though, like I was pretending like somebody else. I was like, "What up, Bron?" Like kind of like looked like really quick, and I shit you not, he just looks at me and goes, "What up, yo?" I was like, "What? What? What do you mean?" I thought he was gonna say, "Security, get this fat kid away from me." I just couldn't fucking believe he just looked me in the eyes and goes, "What up? What up, man?"
It was really nice to say that.
I shot my shot, man. I mean, I literally was just saying hello, but like it wasn't that big of a deal.
Bags understood.
But it was cool, man. It was cool. And I shit you not, probably about 10 seconds after this, man, like 2 minutes after this. One of our hosts for the show is Kendrick Perkins, who obviously played with LeBron and is friends with LeBron. And, I had brought him over to LeBron, and they were talking. And, he had introduced me or whatever. He was real nice about it. And that was kind of cool. And, probably a minute after that, we were walking through the tunnel to get to the media room. There's a media room on the other side of where the trucks were. It's the Thomas and Mack Center. That's the name of the damn place. That's irrelevant. But anyways, that's the name of the place they play. And we were walking to the office, and the Chinese national basketball team was in town because they play some of the summer league teams as an exhibition. Are you listening, Matt Brown?
I am.
So they were getting off their bus, and obviously I don't really know a ton of players on the Chinese national basketball team. And they're all just walking by us or whatever. And I forgot that one of the coaches of the Chinese national basketball team is a former Chinese basketball player, Yao Ming.
Yes, sir. NBA Hall of Famer.
And he knows Kendrick Perkins. And, they dap each other up. And keep in mind, I am 2 feet behind Kendrick Perkins. So, and we're in, where the way we're walking is a very tight space. So, I can't just, walk around and let them talk. I have to wait for them to finish. So, Perk daps them up and they finish talking. And, obviously, as Perk walks by Yao Ming has to walk by me. So I just said, fuck it. And just was like, I dapped him up. I was just like, what's good? And he looked at me like, who the fuck is this guy? But then he dapped me up. And Yao Ming had the cleanest dap I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yao Ming, cleanest dap.
7 foot.
How big was his hand?
Massive hands. Like, just triple the size of my hand. But the cleanest dap. Like, I've dapped up thousands and thousands of people. I'll say Yao Ming, number 1. Undefeated. Cleanest dap ever.
Never lost.
Never lost. Undefeated. Never lost. Shout out to LeVar Ball, who's also a really nice guy, by the way.
Can you tell us about meeting LeVar Ball? You met the famous.
Yes,
is he the
but
greatest sports father of all time?
I'll tell you about his sons first because I met LaMelo and Lonzo that same day. Actually,
How
we
long
met
ago was
Floyd
this?
Mayweather. It was so crazy. Almost 2 years ago.
This is even before LaMelo's, LaMelo.
He was in high school. It was.
Okay. He's got some clout off.
Right before they went to Lithuania.
Yep.
So no, a ton of clout. Or no, probably right after. Yeah, so they were at the game, said hi to them. They were super nice. Floyd Mayweather was there, super nice.
Money team, baby.
Money team, man. That's another thing. Like, people really shit on him a lot. He's a phenomenal person, really nice guy. Based on my interaction with him, he's super nice. And just that was a crazy couple days in Vegas, man. Because everybody was there. It was just absolute insanity. Do you want to talk about LeBron specifically at all? Because I have a few LeBron stories.
Talk to us. Period.
But first, before we go,
I don't know. Are you paying attention to me or your phone?
Yeah, no, I'm paying attention to you. I take my notes and log the show every time. So
killing me, man.
I'm not, and I don't.
I love you.
I wouldn't do that to any of my guests.
I love you. I appreciate you.
I just, I take notes and log and get things ready throughout the show.
Just busted your balls, man. It's all good.
But anyways, so before we do get into LeBron, because I'm genuinely interested, you mentioned one thing that I think is important to mention was Kobe Bryant. You mentioned that you were working the day before his tragic death, way earlier in January.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most traumatic days for our generation in sports, and obviously the NBA. Sure. So before we go talk about other things, I just want to focus on that really quick before we talk about
that day, those couple days.
Yeah. So you told me that you had a special connection and something special went on. Can you go explain to me how your day went that day?
Yeah. So I mean, first of all, that week was kind of crazy because we had went to. I had went to the college football playoff 2 weeks before that, and then I had a big road trip where we had went to Houston. And then we went to, I'm trying to remember what game we went to after Houston. I think we went from Houston to Philly. Anyways, it was a crazy road trip, and I believe Philly was the last stop of my road trip. I think it was the third or fourth NBA game I had been to that week. And it was just insane and just exhausted. And the talk of the town, the talk of the game, and the thing that we had talked about in our show, the whole show that we did a pregame show, the whole show we produced was Kobe versus LeBron. Because LeBron was 13 points away from passing Kobe.
Yep. That Saturday of.
Yeah.
It was
Sunday. The day before he passed away. He was going to pass Kobe. He was 13 points behind him. And that was our entire show, was Kobe versus LeBron. Luckily, we had painted Kobe in a great light, as he deserved. But, gave him his chops, but LeBron got his chops too. And then, I have a picture on my phone. We were at the game, we were in the press box watching the game, and he passed him, and the Sixers put up a beautiful graphic of, LeBron passed Kobe, and, everybody gave him a standing ovation. And, we talked to LeBron for a little bit, and, he said he was super grateful to pass Kobe, Kobe's a legend, all this stuff, and it was incredible to watch him pass him. That was a beautiful moment. And then, and keep in mind, where's Kobe from? He's from Philly.
Yep.
He grew up in Philly.
Lower Marion.
Lower Marion High in Philadelphia. And he passed him in Philly. And the next day, I was at the airport in Philadelphia, going through TSA. And I got a notification on Twitter that Kobe had died in a helicopter crash. TMZ had said it, so it wasn't everybody was kind of a little whoa, is this real? And it was kind of, starting to settle in that it was very real. And to be where he was born, or not where he was born, but where he grew up, where he played high school basketball, where he was, somebody passed him. LeBron James passed him in scoring. It just was overwhelming. It was emotional to be there. And just, I was in shock. I mean, I called a bunch of my Laker fan friends, one of my buddies, idolized Kobe, man, talked on the phone. And just to be there where where he's from in that moment, it was tragic and horrible and beautiful all at the same time. It was a very sad thing, but I feel connected to it. I feel connected to him. I feel connected in that moment. And even though I really did not like him as a kid because I'm a Celtics fan, he took a finals from us, and you don't like the Lakers, you don't like Kobe, you don't like, anybody that played for the Lakers, but I love Kobe. I never did, but I do now. And I wish I did when I was younger. I wish I appreciated what he did and how good he was and how great of a guy he was, which luckily I did start to towards the end of his life, just based on watching him with his daughter. And rest in peace to her as well, because it was genuinely awful.
And the other 7 people.
Yes, everybody on board. Just a genuinely awful thing. But rest in peace. Beautiful person, beautiful and tragic and sad moment and a sad day, but, honored to be connected to him in some way as well.
I think it shows the importance of can't take life for granted.
No, not at all, man.
Just like, I'm sure one of your old colleagues, Jay Williams, was saying, sometimes in this life when things are stressing you out, especially those little things, just let that shit go.
You gotta bring it every day, man. You gotta let that shit go. When he said that on TV, that was wild. It was beautiful.
S&P was okay. He's like, you know what?
We're cool with this one. We'll let this one slide.
Right. But Kobe's legend never dies. His legacy never dies, and
legends never die.
We'll never forget.
Heroes are never forgotten, but legends
never die. That's right.
Yeah. But Kobe's still with us, one way or the other.
That's right.
So, transitioning to that with another great, as we mentioned before, LeBron James,
yes,
who made it to this wall under Aaron Judge.
LeBron James.
Okay, I'm gonna do this, but I just want to say just one really quick story next to LeBron. Just gives a buffer in.
Okay.
I have a very similar story. I think my youngest brother Tommy's in the studio audience as well.
My guy.
So, as you mentioned, hey LeBron, and LeBron actually acknowledged you.
Yeah.
So the closest thing, I'll actually let Brendan. Can you tell the story about Aaron Judge, because you were the one who actually initiated this? Can you talk about what happened?
The mic.
So, you're talking about Aaron Judge, AJ. I did have an encounter with AJ.
Hey, all 3 of us.
Aaron Judge. However, though, what makes it more special is I was able to share it with my 2 other brothers.
Yes.
We were at Yankee Stadium, New York, where legends are made. And it was
You texting Ryan?
It was a hot summer day.
Don't even try to get at me.
Hot summer day, 90 plus, right? I have in my Snapchat memories, me and my 2 bros, my older bro, my little bro, walking into New York Stadium. Yankee Stadium, where legends are made, with my older brother and my little bro. And it was a hot summer day, June 30th, let's say, 90 plus degrees. And it was intermission. It was like, I think the pitcher was changing, but Judge was walking towards Aaron Hicks. We were at bleachers, right? We caught bleacher tickets, but we made our way towards.
It's not right behind right field.
Yeah, we were right behind right field where the pitchers warm up and we go. So during intermission, like I think maybe the reliever or closer
during the pitching change.
Yeah. Judge is walking towards Aaron Hicks. We go, hey yo, Judge, quick, bro. His head turns around, gives us the head nod, and that was the very few times in my life where I was starstruck because I'm looking at my 2 brothers. I was like, yo, you guys just saw Aaron Judge. He gave us the head nod, and so the only thing between us and Aaron Judge was the home run line, right? The barrier, right? There's no other fans in between us. It was us, the plastic, the
Right next to us was the bullpen.
The bullpen, and then Yankee Stadium. So it was like he heard us, bro. We were the first people.
Sick.
Yeah, so it was dope.
That's sick.
Real recognized real.
Facts, bro. Real recognized real. What little bro said.
say word.
So as you say,
yeah,
with acknowledging celebrity, star athletes,
sure.
even the little interactions can mean a lot to us, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I mean, like, and that's something that luckily a lot of these athletes realize, is that, like, even, like, adults, like, a little recognition, like a head nod, you know, something
yeah,
like that.
The littlest
That's
thing.
awesome, man. I mean, like, I have kind of a funny story.
Please tell us.
We were in Houston. So the thing is, like, I told you I went to a lot of NBA games last year. Ironically, the Lakers were so, and they still will be because of LeBron, and they're really good. They're all over national TV, right? So a ton of the games that I went to were Laker games. Even though I went to, like, many different cities. I went to Houston, I went to Philly, I went to LA, I went to Boston, I went to New York, I went to a ton of different cities, right? New Orleans.
Yep.
The Lakers were playing over half those games. So we were in Houston, and this was a fun show because we had Travis Scott on.
All right.
So meeting him was cool. Really nice guy.
What's up?
Straight up. No, he was really nice.
How you doing? Straight up?
Straight up. But we interacted a lot with LeBron and Anthony Davis that day because Perk was talking to him, and they were super nice. And they always were nice to us. Although I had a really awkward conversation with Anthony Davis at NBA All-Star in Chicago.
What happened with there?
It was just awkward. It's not really a story. It's more of like, hey, AD, how you doing? And he's kind of like, hi. And kind of the whole conversation.
Okay.
It wasn't like, he wasn't mean. It was just kind of awkward.
Yeah.
But anyways, we were in Houston, and I was shooting stuff for the show. We were just getting some B-roll, and I was filming LeBron and Dwight Howard interacting, and I get bumped like in the shoulder, like somebody was running onto the court. And I was like, what the fuck? So I turn around to kind of be like, hey, like you all right? Like, you know, are you bumping into me? And it was Rajon Rondo.
Mm-hmm.
And I had met him a few times, but I don't think he recognized me. Because I thought he might have, because I was with Perk, who he's really good friends with.
Right,
and I'd been, and you know, the last couple times him and Perk had interacted at games, I was with him. So I thought maybe he'd recognize me, and he didn't. And he was just like, hey, get off the court, man. And I didn't realize I was, like, on the court. I had, like, slowly, like, moved my feet onto the hardwood.
And while the game...
No, not while the game was going on. This was pregame. Like, that should have been...
You still can't be on it.
No, you still can't be on the court. And he kind of laughed about it. He's like, hey, man, it's not a big deal. Just kind of give me a hard time. Because he had, like, looked at me like he was going to beat the crap out of me. Or have somebody beat the crap out of me.
He seems like he'd be an intimidating guy to be.
Yeah. He's a nice guy, though. He is genuinely really nice. He's super quiet.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most quiet and, like, shy to themselves people I've met.
Is he quiet?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
But Kawhi is the ultimate quiet.
Right. I think Rondo's right there.
Please tell me, do you have a Kawhi story?
I don't. Wait, I do!
I have.
Brendan does too. We'll let Brendan go first.
Yeah,
I've got one as well, but probably not exciting.
This isn't a personal story, but Kawhi signs with New Balance, right?
Yep.
Gets his shoe deal, right?
Sure.
In Kawhi fashion, he gets a basic shoe.
Yep.
In Times New Roman font, bro. The most generic, the most Kawhi fashion. That's what I just gotta say. But however, though, Kawhi Leonard though, cut from a different cloth, comes from an original breed, and you have to pay homage to where he's from. He comes from a different cloth, and you just gotta respect it.
I was trying to think of if I had any Kawhi stories from when I was working at ESPN and stuff, and I don't. But I actually do have a Kawhi story from prior to that. When I used to go get autographs with one of my buddies, Kyle. Shout out to my boy Kyle. I've known him since I was very young. We used to go to games and like get autographs. I can't find the video on my IG, but anyways, we had went and I had bronchitis at the time, and we were late to the game, and we were running through the streets of Boston to get to TD Garden, and I'm like out of breath because one, I was out of shape, obviously, and on top of that, I had bronchitis, so I'm like literally like running into the arena like that. We finally get to where we got to go, and we were late to the autograph. There's like a little section at TD Garden where you can go get autographs, but to the right of it is where the players have to walk to get to the locker room.
Yep.
And the Spurs were walking through there, and guess who was the only player left walking through was Kawhi Leonard. And I shit you not, we run up and we're like, Kawhi. And he just looks at us, and we're like, hey, can you please sign? Like, we had my buddy had a jersey that he wanted to, like, sell. Kawhi didn't know that. Kawhi doesn't need to know that. And I just wanted to say, I didn't give a fuck about anything. So, like, we ran up to him, he signed the jersey, and I was like, hey, man,
really?
like, keep hooping out there. Yeah, he did. They usually sign. That's something we can really dive deep into if we really wanted to, but, like, really quickly, I can give you a quick little synopsis, because I used to do autographs a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not just like a little hobby. Like what we used to do is we would look up charter flights coming into Logan Airport in Boston and figure out when teams were coming, what hotels they were staying at, and then we'd go to the airport in the morning or at the night that they came in. We would get autographs signed. We would bring, like, literally, my friend he did it way more than I did. He would have 50 pictures printed out for every player. He'd bring 10 to the airport, and he'd get them to try and sign as many of them as they could. The thing is, some teams had agents or people that would go with these players everywhere they went and tell them what they couldn't and could sign. Because, for example, Steph Curry is a big guy that does this. He doesn't sign. He has a card sponsorship.
Yeah.
He can only sign, like, I think it's Topps. There's one brand that he can sign. So, like, he literally has somebody walk around and go, yep, nope.
Yeah.
He won't sign original work. Like, I remember this guy had said,
original.
like, oh yeah, this guy had painted like a beautiful photo of him.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, would you please sign it? And we were at the Warriors game, and Steph, like, takes the pen and going to do it, and then the guy that he was with, some guy that worked for the Warriors, was just like, nope, no, don't touch that.
I hate that.
Don't touch it. Well, but it's all money, and
it's money though. I wish though.
Yeah.
Steph had his own representation to say, yo.
Yeah.
Listen, that is respect. That is an art form.
Sure.
Forget those shits who are trying to make money off of Steph Curry's name.
Right.
I'd see that a lot with TRL, with people bringing in murals for guests, only to get rejected and thrown to the side.
It sucks.
It's heartbreaking. One of my best pictures on Instagram is me with Cardi B murals that fans created, only for no one to accept it.
You gotta show me that, Breezy.
So,
what?
but
You gotta show me that.
But the
it's
thing
on Instagram. I don't.
The thing is with a lot of this stuff, or with autographs specifically, Steph Curry is a huge signer. He loves to sign. He'll sign as many things as he can. But this has devalued his autograph. So his agency or his agents have kind of said stop signing as much. Because you can go and you can get a Steph Curry autograph on Amazon for like 45 cents. Because he's just signed.
He does it all the time.
He just signs everything that he can.
Ever seen on Pawn Stars how valuable some of those things
right.
are? Like, you know.
Right. So back to autographing in general, though. We would go to the airport. We'd get them to sign as many things as they can. We'd know what hotel they were going to. Typically, and by the way, if anybody really cares, if you go to Boston to try and get autographs, NBA teams stay at the Four Seasons. So we go to the Four Seasons, and then we get them to sign stuff when they arrived. So we'd beat them from the airport there and get them to sign stuff. Then the next day or that night when they go to the arena to play, we find out what time shoot-arounds are. Because there's certain players, like Carmelo Anthony would never go to like a 10 a.m. shoot-around, right? They have 10 like that's too early for him. He'll go to the 4 p.m. shoot-around right before the game, or like 2 hours before the game, 3 hours before the game. So we'd get them when they're leaving the hotel to go to the arena. Keep in mind there are multiple buses that take teams from the hotel to the arena because different players arrive at different times. But then we would go to the arena, we'd have pregame access, and we'd get them to sign before the game. So that's a whole nother batch of autographs that we'd have. And then after the game, we'd go to the hotel and get more autographs. Keep in mind, a lot of the time, players would recognize us. And we've been called out multiple times, like, oh, didn't I sign a bunch of stuff for you earlier?
Ooh,
and we'd be like,
Ryan.
yeah. And if we were honest, a lot of the time they would just be nice. You know, one time, I think it was like James Harden, I said no. And he just looked at me, he's like, I'm not signing this shit then. Because he knew I was on some bullshit. So then from there on, we were just like, yeah, it was me, and they don't care. The issue is, they kind of figure out if you're doing it, if you're trying to get multiple, you're trying to do it for money. It's not for your little brother. It's not for you. And you know what? We were starting to get a little too old for it. Like, we were like 20 years old, and they were kind of like, I'm not signing for you, man. Screw you.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be a certain age because, like, if you look a certain type of way, you probably try to get a profit out of it.
For sure. And you know what? We did. I mean, like, I will never forget this. One of the nicest rookies that we had ever met that signed for us. I can't believe this still. Like, I'm sitting here shitting my pants thinking about this story. One of my buddies was like, "You good?"
Yeah, he's good.
So, the buddy that I went with to games, he had ordered a jersey for a rookie on a team that I'm not going to say just yet because it'll ruin it.
Okay.
But we were going to a game, and there was a rookie on this team that he thought was going to be really good. I didn't know shit about him, but, he was the first-round pick, so I was like, all right, whatever. He bought a jersey. And he was like, hopefully he'll come out, warm up, and he'll sign this jersey. So my buddy sold this jersey very recently, which is why it's kind of cool. We get to the arena. We sit down in our seats. He starts walking up, this tall, skinny guy. He signs the jersey, and my buddy sold the jersey for a lot of money. I don't know exactly how much, but it was a big increase. Yeah. And it was fucking Giannis. Keep in mind, I had no idea who he was.
This was early Giannis.
This was his rookie year on the Bucks. He was super skinny, really
he's
nice.
Jacked now.
Yeah, he's super jacked now. Super good now at basketball. And I just remember seeing him play that night, and then I remember when Joel Embiid was a rookie, he played so well against us. That was really cool to meet him that night.
So Giannis must appreciate your buddy. You believed in me when no one did.
I mean, it was kind of cool because the way it works at TD Garden is they have like a little setup where everybody can go and congregate to get autographs. And, there's probably about, at different points there's a varying amount of people, but at this point there's probably about 75 people just, waiting. And guess what? Like 4 people got autographs from him. I mean, just, like literally, like, it was like 2 kids in front of us because they were just asking everybody for an autograph. They're like these little kids, like 6, 7 years old, like really young. That's the age to do it. And then my buddy, and nobody else wanted an autograph. And then I think like it must have been not Rondo. It must have been Isaiah Thomas. It was like a Celtics point guard that came out. It was like Kelly Olynyk, some random players on the Celtics, and everybody like, oh my god, sign this for me, please. And nobody wanted to talk to Giannis because nobody gave a shit. So that's all about perspective, right? Because like.
It is perception.
Think about it this way, right? You
gotta give everybody a chance. You never know who could go off.
Think about it this way. 25 years ago, if you're at an event and Barack Obama walked by you, 25 years ago, some guy, I don't fucking know. Like, think about it this way, right? The president of the United States in 2052.
We might have met already.
You could have went to college with him. You don't know. Like anybody could become anybody, right?
Who would you, Hart?
I mean, me, of course, right?
Besides you and like I don't know.
Julia Borges.
No.
Oh my God! That was the quickest. That was the quickest. No, that's getting edited out for sure.
You heard
the word.
I just don't think she'll be president. But you know who will be president? We'll have Sam Anchari be president.
Sam Anchari?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I feel like probably more likely than me. Anyways,
Chris
anybody
Daly.
Could fucking become anything,
Daly,
right?
president.
That's my point here, is that, like, you underestimate somebody or you don't value somebody, and just because nobody else does, and then as soon as they, catch fire, you kind of look back on those moments like, shit, like, I met Giannis, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, because even me, right, like, I was like, I don't know who this guy is, like, I'll just dap him up and say hello, like,
now he's Giannis.
Right, and now he's Giannis, right? He was Giannis then, but now he's Giannis. It's a little...
Just wait for Obi to be the next Giannis.
Obi Toppin?
Yes.
Oh, can we not talk about the Knicks? Because, like, I think...
I'll do it for the sake, because I've talked about him a lot lately, but...
Sure, I mean...
I'm just staying loyal to that.
I'll say that if you had to describe every NBA team as an object, the Knicks would be a dumpster fire.
What about the Hornets? Or That's not a good
That's
example.
not a good
Well,
example.
only because not till this year. They were really trash until now. Gordon Hayward.
Sure,
LaMelo's coming.
but
What
nobody talks about the Hornets. Nobody talks about Charlotte as
But you know
the mecca
damn
of
well-
basketball and like
You know
a
damn-
big deal and a big franchise. Like
You-
the Knicks are this big deal, but guess what? They've never done shit. It's been 40, 50 years since they've been relevant.
It's been 45 years. No, 47 years since the
Since the last time they won a finals. And
you know damn
even when
well
they were
that the NBA, that ESPN,
Sure.
everybody wants those Knicks to be good. And who's the goddamn one who's staying loyal to the team? It's me. It's Jerry
only you.
Ferrara from
Right.
Entourage.
You're right.
It's Spike Lee.
You're right. It's only you.
That's it.
It's you three guys.
And Jesus and Miro too up here.
Sure, five.
That's
The five
it.
people are loyal.
So
to
you
the
know what? For anyone who needs to talk to the Knicks, and I will take it for the rest of my life. But when the day happens that they're good
Sure.
again, remember who stayed first. Those five.
I just want to, I want to keep in mind that you five are the only loyal Knicks fans.
Fair enough.
I don't believe that. But anyways, no, like legit, like the Knicks, right? We talk about the Knicks like there's some great thing, but the Knicks don't matter. And I'm gonna tell
Until
you
they win.
they don't matter.
Until they win.
You know why they don't matter?
Why?
Because they don't matter.
Until they
The
win.
owner of the team is an asshat.
Yes, I agree with that.
Who is royally fucked the franchise in many ways. It is an embarrassment to sport. It is an embarrassment to basketball, to America, that James Dolan is the owner of a team. Like, forget that it's the Knicks. Forget that it's New York. Forget that it's Madison Square Garden, which is probably one of the most significant venues in the world.
Yeah.
Probably the most significant American one, I would say. And he owns the team. And the reason why that's a problem is because he does not care about the team. He doesn't care about the image of the team. He doesn't care about the image of himself. He cares about himself, and that's it. He doesn't care that what he did to Charles Oakley was disrespectful and racist and disgusting and embarrassing to that franchise. And to me, that speaks volumes about why the Knicks don't matter. Until he sells that team, I don't care, right? I don't care if they go 82-0 next year, which, by the way, they won't because they're awful. And there's nothing that will convince me to care about that franchise until that man's done. So that's one aspect of it. On top of that, the Knicks have just not been good for, 8 years now? It's been 8 years since they had a decent team. And on top of that, when they had a decent team, they still weren't good enough to even get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
They knocked you guys out that season.
They did in
Just
2012 against washed-up Kevin Garnett, washed-up Ray Allen,
Still
washed-up
counts, though.
Paul
Still
Pierce.
counts, though.
I mean, sure, but that's kind of like, I don't know, that'd be like me beating up Sylvester Stallone. I'd be like, hey, I beat up Rocky. He's 74.
Or Jake Paul beating Nate Robinson.
Sylvester Stallone is 74 years old, but I beat him up. I beat up Rocky. I beat him up. You know, he was once a great fighter. Come on, man. It doesn't fucking matter that you beat the Celtics one time in 2012. Think about this. The Knicks haven't won a championship in 46 years, 45 years, whatever it's been. They haven't had a good team in 8 years. And they haven't had a competitive team in regards to winning a championship in probably 26 years, 25 years.
Yep.
And even those teams weren't really that good. They were just scrappy, and they managed to put some wins together, but they never were good enough. Even then, when we were saying, oh, they could win the finals, they still couldn't do it. So fuck them, man.
Dude.
This is
hear
taking
you
a turn
make
for the
all
worse.
value. You make genuine, valuable points. That's true. And it's so annoying how James Dolan... I mean, don't forget, James Dolan also owns the Rangers, who are doing a rebuild and made their bubble.
I was going to say, they're not successful at the moment, but yes, they
made a
have
bubble.
had
I mean,
success.
It was in the Cup 6 years ago.
Sure. Did they win the Cup?
No.
Okay.
They lost 5 games to 1 in 4 overtime games. But,
Okay.
the thing is, he owns the Madison Square Garden company.
Right.
He owns probably the most wanted real estate in the world. Here in the heart of Midtown Manhattan,
Yep.
owning the most significant arena that everyone wants to be. That
In
is
America.
the place to go.
In America.
Yep, in America. And probably argue with the world in some other big venues, especially
I was gonna
concert
say.
venues.
I'm going to say, there's some other big venues around the world.
No, of course. But you could say it's in the top 10 most desirable.
Sure, I would
especially
say
artists
it's
with
up there with Wembley Stadium. It's up there
Right.
with the San Siro.
Right.
It's up there with
Exactly.
other big arenas.
So, amongst owning that and also the New York Liberty
Sure.
and
Shout out to Sabrina Inescu.
yes,
And key nurse.
it's just a it's just been a it's been a stressful time.
It's all good.
It was just bro. I mean, it's tough, but you know damn well it is hard to see. Like
Yeah.
that is a genuine flaw of mine that I really haven't realized more as much as I've done this
Yeah.
podcast. How bad it is to be a Knicks fan, being
I mean, to
laughing
be
at
a
it.
New York sports fan in general, I mean, it's kind of great as a Boston sports fan who hates New York teams to see New York go through this championship drought.
Been
To see
interesting,
the
huh?
Yankees not be able to win a championship for over a decade has been a blessing. Sorry. The Giants are fucking trash.
Okay, we're not trash now. We got a big game this
Uh,
year.
yeah.
We could make the playoffs if we went out and
We could make the
Washington
playoffs.
loses one game. At the time of this recording, we win the division.
Right. And it's the NFC East, so it doesn't matter. But
Still counts though. We're still in the
fucking
playoffs.
awful, man.
You were saying them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, as a Boston sports fan, it's selfishly nice to see New York suck. I mean, just because I remember growing up, we were always New York's little brother. You know, like, always seeing, like, okay, like, the Yankees are so much better than the Red Sox. And that was the big one, because really, football, you guys were kind of bad, too. Especially the Jets. And then, the Patriots won 6 championships. The Red Sox won 3 championships. The Celtics won a championship. The Bruins have won a championship. And it's kind of cool to see.
Actually, even more.
Yeah.
In between 04, 07, 13,
17,
18. But
18, right.
you're right, Ryan. I would probably do the same thing, and it's been an interesting
You will.
time.
It's turning
and
around
you
for
know
you.
that time, I'm just relentless on that, and I think I want to make something clear about that.
Sure.
Besides all of that, witnessing a lot of hell.
Yeah.
Especially in the 2010s, it was bad. We reckon saw Super Bowl in 2011, Super Bowl win.
Screw you.
And
It was 2012 technically. It was the 2011 season.
Yes,
It was
2011 season. For
February
2012.
2012.
And Rangers making the cup at 14. Well, I want to emphasize the importance of at least staying loyal with it.
Yeah.
That's if I could get anything out of that, and I will take those bullets forever, especially the Knicks fan. I think there is a point to emphasize like that loyalty to staying with my teams that I grew up with, that I've only grown up 15 minutes from the state
Yep.
and then an hour from the actual New York City. And I want to emphasize that, and there will be a time. I said I can never complain about a team drought until I'm 108 years.
Wait, are we actually 15 minutes from New York State right now?
Yeah, just about if you want to go with the very
the
border.
state line, yeah, state line, yeah.
What? That's
for
trippy.
Westchester County.
How did
yeah.
I never know that?
You didn't realize how close this is? Yeah.
Nah, man. I mean, I don't know. I come down here and I don't really think about where I'm at. I guess I just kind of drive down.
Yeah,
see
So
what's
exactly.
Earth is a big ass place.
Yeah, say,
Exactly.
say
It's
what's
just
good to the
15,
homies.
20 minutes, depending how fast you go, you're in the New York line. You'll hit Westchester.
Okay.
But anyways, that's my thing. It's staying loyal to these teams, and they're going to be good again.